This is a highly decorated military dog, but now he's in a prison cell. No one knows what crime he has committed, but looking at his fierce appearance, the soldiers could guess how scary it was. No one dared to come in contact with him. Until this day, Riga was ordered by his superiors to come and tame him. As soon as he walked into the cage, Lulu stood up alertly. Riga was not afraid. He continued to move closer and closer, while he kept using words to reassure. "I heard. I'm gonna leash you up." Lulu gradually relaxed her guard. Riga also slowly crouched down. He tentatively touched Lulu's body. Lulu didn't resist. He was a bit pleased with himself, but the next second, he pounced on him, although he was wearing a muzzle. But Lulu's aggressive nature scared Riga. He could no longer play and carried Lulu to his destination. On the way, Lulu kept barking. Riga tried to reason with him, but he didn't understand him at all. He even became more and more manic. He had no choice but to call the chief for help. Then he realized that this Lulu was a military dog with a distinguished record, because some time ago his handler was killed in battle. This caused his personality to become violent. This time Riga's mission was to take him to his handler's funeral, because he was his most loyal companion. Knowing this reason, Riga's heart suddenly felt a little more admiration. He told Lulu that he would deliver him on time. Lulu seemed to understand his words. He stopped making a fuss and became much quieter. He arrived at the service area and looked at the docile Lulu. Riga took off his muzzle, but just as he was about to take Lulu for a walk, Lulu suddenly started to make a fuss again. Riga had to leave him in the car. Little did he know that this simple act would make Lulu even more irritable. It didn't take long for him to take the cage apart. By the time Riga came back from his shopping trip, Lulu was already tearing up the front seat. To avoid being hurt by him, Riga came up with a solution. He stuffed the ham with a sedative and threw it in the car. Then the scene shifted to Riga happily singing as he drove down the road. Lulu in the back was so poisoned that she fell asleep. At the end of the night, the effects of his sedative had not yet worn off. Riga had to bring dog food to feed Lulu. At that moment, the beautiful women holding the dog happened to pass by. When they found out that Lulu was a military dog, they all admired Riga and invited him to their home. Riga abandoned Lulu for the beautiful women. After a while, Lulu's medication finally wore off, but then a man outside the car tried to steal him. Hearing Lulu barking outside, Riga, who was communicating with a pretty girl, went out to check. He found out that the man was up to no good. Riga warned him that this was a military dog and that he should not ask for trouble. After saying that he was ready to go back, but then he suddenly smashed the car window. Lulu rushed out and bit him hard. Riga was able to stop him in time before he caused any serious trouble. After this painful lesson, Riga never dared to take it lightly again. He chose to spend the night in the car. Lulu didn't feel grateful for his company overnight. On the way, Riga continued to educate Lulu. He kept feeding Lulu with snacks while giving him a lecture. He ate all the snacks, but he didn't listen to a single word of reason. He broke free of his collar when Riga wasn't looking. Then he jumped out of the car and escaped. Riga got out of the car and chased after him. But how could he possibly catch up? As expected, on a hill Riga lost him. When he was at a loss, a pool of blood on the leaves caught his attention. He followed the blood trail to a farmer's house. His instincts told him that Lulu was probably inside. Before he could walk through the door, an arrow hit him in the ass. When he woke up again, he was already tied up in a pigsty. Riga was professionally trained. It took him less than 2 minutes to get out of the bindings. He thought he was in trouble this time, but when he found the sound of voices in the living room, he realized there was only an elderly couple. Incredibly, Lulu became very docile in front of the old couple. Riga thought they had drugged the dog with something, but she said he didn't do anything. The reason why Lulu is so calm here is probably because of the large amount of herbs planted around the area. It turns out that they are a hermit botanist living in the mountains. The reason they tied him up yesterday was because they took him for a bandit from the next mountain. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, Riga asked him a lot of questions about raising dogs. The old lady told him that the most important thing to do with dogs is to be patient. Although Lulu can't talk, he is also afraid of being alone and abandoned. Understanding this, Riga set out on his journey again. This time, he took Lulu with him wherever he went. He stopped reprimanding Lulu when she made a mess in the car. Slowly they got used to each other's presence. They finally got to the city. Riga decided to take Lulu to a free 5-star hotel. He put on sunglasses and pretended to be blind. And then he dressed Lulu as an army guide dog. They arrogantly walked into the hotel and went to the front desk. Riga justifiably cut the line. The receptionist saw this scene and gave them a free presidential suite, because this is the exclusive privilege of local disabled soldiers. After his ruse succeeded, Riga was excited and celebrated in the room. He complimented Lulu. Then they took a hot bath together. After a nice dinner, he decided to take Lulu for a walk. But little did he know that this would lead to trouble. He saw the beautiful woman next to him and hit on her. The military dog next to him seemed to smell something. He rushes off like a madman. Riga rushed to catch up with him, but he couldn't run as fast as the dog. By the time he caught up with him, Lulu had pounced on an Afghan. If he hadn't been wearing a muzzle, he had already chewed the man up. Although the Afghan was only frightened, but Riga's impersonation of a disabled soldier in the hotel was exposed. He was taken to the police. He thought the incident would land him in jail, but after hearing his explanation, the police miraculously released him. It turns out that they learned through the file that this Lulu was involved in the consciously thought of the other side as the war in Afghanistan. That's why he's sub enemy. After understanding the reason, Riga continued on his way. At the noon break, he was curious for the first time and looked up Lulu's growth book. He realized how good Lulu had been. He decided to make friends with him right away. Then they shook hands and continued their journey. At night, it suddenly started to rain heavily. The violent lightning made Lulu cower in fear. The car broke down, and to top it all off, there was no signal. In order to get up as soon as possible, Riga took Lulu on a journey. They found an abandoned warehouse where they were going to rest for the night. But then an accident happened. Hearing the thunder, Lulu started to growl furiously. Riga went to comfort him, and he was bitten back. Riga was furious. He shouted at Lulu. It didn't take long for Lulu to calm down, but Riga, who saw this scene, blamed himself and walked outside. He knew that Lulu had mistaken the thunder for an explosion. This is the aftermath of every battlefield experience. He returned to Lulu's side again after he had recovered. He told his story. Lulu also listened quietly. Soon it was early the next morning. It was the day of the dog owner's funeral. It was too late to wait for the car to rescue him. Rita decided to go on foot to save time. They walked more than 20 kilometers. Lulu's strength was exhausted. He was lying on the ground and refused to go. Riga had to pick up Lulu and continue the journey. I don't know how long they walked, but they finally arrived at the funeral before it was over. When he saw his master's photo, Lulu instinctively wanted to rush over to him, but Riga didn't let him go right away. He first knelt down to make sure Lulu was stable before untying him. Lulu ran straight to the photo. Then he silently lay on top of his shoes without saying a word. Seeing this scene, everyone's heart was touched. They say this dog is a vicious guy, but who can know that he is actually so docile in front of his master. After the mission was complete through this trip, Lulu was now a different. He called the chief. He told him that he did. Riga decided to return to the army in person. He hoped the officers would agree to leave Lulu with his comrades' parents, but the officer said he couldn't make the decision. According to the rules of the army, without the owner's authority, military dogs are eventually euthanized by force. Riga didn't want to see Lulu end up like this, so he found a jungle on the way back and left him behind. He told Lulu to run away as far as possible, but strangely enough, no matter how hard he tried to drive him away, Lulu wouldn't go. Riga had to take him back to the barracks. As he said goodbye, he repeatedly told the soldiers Lulu was not the same as before. He wanted the army to retest to see if he was still fit for service. He wanted the army to retest him. Riga's heart felt very sad. Listening to Lulu's incessant whimpering, he fought back his tears and turned to his car. But just as he was about to leave, he happened to see Lulu in the rearview mirror. He was struggling frantically and kept looking at him. Riga couldn't help himself. Wait. I should have. You know what, I should have put her vest on her. She'd listen more when the vests. You know girls and their fashion. Be right back. He lied and took Lulu away and drove off right after. They drove off to a new life together, and so began their journey of redemption.